2 commercial breaks, and then you're throwing the divas out there and giving them a 5-minute match, which people are falling asleep during, people are not paying enough attention to, people are getting up and going to the bathroom during editions of Raw and SmackDown, getting something to eat. It seems like divas matches are people's piss breaks, and that's an unfortunate way of putting it and phrasing it, but it seems like that's the way that the Divas division is being treated. Not so much in TNA Wrestling, because TNA Wrestling allows their women's division, known as the Knockouts division, to go out there and wrestle. At least in TNA, that's when we saw Awesome Kong used to her fullest potential, given her recent paternity leave. We're not going to get to see her do some in-ring work for WWE until after WrestleMania 28, or at the actual event. It seems like TNA Wrestling and the independents allow their women's division to go out there and really showcase their abilities and their God-given talents. There are a lot of talented women in WWE, and I'm not taking anything away from that. It's just the fact that WWE officials are only putting them out there for 5 minutes. Every week here recently on Raw and SmackDown, it was raised by Chris Adonis in a recent interview conducted here on the program. For a while there, we would see 5-on-5, 3-on-3, 3-on-4, allowing divas who weren't being given television time the opportunity to go out and actually get some TV time on Raw and SmackDown. But the problem that he raised was he believed that there were women in the match that weren't even being tagged in on times, and they weren't being given the opportunity to actually work in the match. They were just there for filling in a spot and standing on the apron. And that was a crucial issue that he raised that he believed needed some correction, and I am in agreement with him when he says that, because we're seeing these 4-on-4, 5-on-5, 6-on-6 matches, and divas are not even being tagged into the ring. It's usually the same 4 or 5 divas having to carry the match, and usually when we have a 1-on-1 scenario, it's usually the one diva who's made out to be the most dominant one, and that shouldn't be the case in professional wrestling. I think the matches should be equally distributed down the middle, giving each diva an equal opportunity and a fighting chance. It should be definitely equally distributed, and equally distributed is something that needs to be stressed and highlighted with the yellow highlighter here for this week's audio commentary, because usually a lot of divas are being used as put-over girls to make one girl heading into a championship match the following Sunday at a pay-per-view to be the most dominant one and make it look like they have a fighting chance against their challenger, their contender, their opposition, whatever. Usually some divas like Alicia Fox and Kelly for the longest period of time were being used as put-over girls, and Gail Kim on the last of it during her WWE run, what I like to refer to as her final WWE run, was being used as one of those put-over girls like Kelly was back in 2006, 2007, before breaking through and improving on her in-ring ability and becoming, I believe, the most improved diva of 2007, 2008. I'll use Gail Kim here as a perfect example of this. Gail Kim was one of the most phenomenal talents in TNA Wrestling, went back to WWE after her first run failed, only to have her second run in WWE fail. Her most impressive run in WWE had to have been her inaugural run, winning the Women's Championship for the first time in her first match in 2004. One of those Canadian Asian talents that really wasn't used to her fullest potential. Her most dominant run came in 2004. At least she was able to win the Women's Championship several times and work with talents like Trish Stratus and Molly Holly. And now it seems like she's going to be heading to TNA, and hopefully she'll have a better avenue ahead of her, because WWE were just using her for the longest time on the final days of her final WWE run as a put-over girl like Kelly was back in 2007, 2008, before breaking through and demonstrating some of her gymnast abilities and using it to the best of her ability to become the Divas Champion on a 3-hour edition of Raw, which was very well put together. Herself and the Bella Twins definitely are always able to create magic inside of the ring, and that's another thing about the Divas division. There are some divas who will go one-on-one, who will team up, who will work together, who are able to create magic. I mean, Layla and Michelle McCool were a unique pairing, but they got the job done. A number of other divas were able to come together, even back as far as the Fabulous Moolah and Wendy Richter, and create magic inside of the ring. But nowadays, it seems like women's wrestling is being made an absolute joke out of. And I know I've had several guests here on HGW Entertainment Variety Radio through the years who have raised crucial issues and crucial points about women's wrestling and how it's being treated. I don't think it's being treated fairly. That's why I'm in agreement with Tommy Dreamer, and that's why I'm raising the issue yet again here on HEW Entertainment Variety Radio. We've had over 875 editions to the program, and every show we've raised a crucial point about women's wrestling that needs some correction. Some things we agree with, some things we don't agree with, but we always raise the topic of women's wrestling and how it's being treated unfairly, and we're going to continue to do that, supposing we have over 5,000 shows. I think that it's not being treated fairly. I think that it's in a state where it should be taken off television and relaunched in a new format, have a new look, have something that to actually look forward to. I will give the women's division credit over the last 3 years. That's one of the only reasons I've been watching Raw and SmackDown, because the storylines that WWE are distributing each week are boring. I mean, I don't really care about Kevin Nash. I don't care about Triple H being the COO. I don't care about the CM Punk angle, although CM Punk is an entertaining wrestler as long as he's telling the truth and backing up what he's saying. Usually, I only watch Raw and SmackDown for the women's division to see who has the title, who's in top contention for the title, and what kind of storylines are being derived from the current Divas roster. Another perfect example of how talents are not being used to their fullest potential. Here's Caitlyn, who won the very first Divas installment of NXT back on Season 3, being teamed up with AJ, and they're usually just being used on SmackDown as put-over girls. For people like Natalya and Beth Phoenix, they're usually just being fed to these talents rather than acquiring victories for themselves, and I think that is absolutely disgraceful to their in-ring abilities. Here's AJ, one of the most phenomenal technical wrestlers and one of the most phenomenal female high flyers I've seen in the last 5 years, being jobbed out to people like Natalya and Beth Phoenix in 2-minute matches. It's pathetic. It's absolutely stupid. I mean, Primo benefited her to heights that no diva has been able to reach, and here she is being fed to people like Beth Phoenix and Natalya. I don't really agree with that, and Caitlyn falls in the same category, the winner of the NXT Season 3, and she has yet to win a match. I think the only match she's won is against Vicky Guerrero, and who hasn't beaten Vicky Guerrero in the last 6 months? I think every diva has had a shot at beating Vicky Guerrero, and she's definitely not one of the top WWE divas of all time, and she shouldn't even be there. She definitely ended up in a position in the business that she doesn't need to be in, and definitely it was one of the girls that were in the right place at the right time, and under the circumstances that she ended up in the business, I don't even think she should be on the active Divas roster. The day when she will be the Divas champion will come, and we'll have to endure it for 5 to 6 months, or however long WWE puts the title on her. It's going to be something similar to a Stephanie McMahon run with the title, but I'm not looking forward to when we see Vicky Guerrero be the Divas champion. I don't even think she should be considered an active member of the roster, given the circumstances she ended up in the WWE under, with the passing of her husband at such a young age due to heart failure. That was an article that was posted on WWE.com many years ago. But yeah, when it comes to the women's division, usually you have the same 4 or 5 divas that are always on top. Usually for the while there it was Beth Phoenix in the first 2 or 3 years of her career. Then it was Mickie James, and it was Trish Stratus, back as far as when it was Sable back in '98. It was always the same 3 or 4 divas who were on top. It was never Gail Kim for 6 months. It was never Molly Holly for 5 to 6 months to a year. It was never people like that. It was always the same 4 or 5 divas. It went from Trish Stratus to Lita, back to Trish Stratus, and then occasionally someone different would have it for 2 or 3 months. But with the same 4 or 5 divas always being on top all the time, winning the title 7 to 8 times, usually the title was equally distributed. When it came to the women's division, I think every diva had an equal opportunity at the title and held the title for at least 2 to 3 months before dropping it to someone substantial like Trish Stratus. I think the women's title was equally distributed before being taken off television and replaced by the Divas Championship, which in my opinion was an effort to compete with TNA's knockout division, which they succeeded in doing. Although WWE Divas are not as equally talented as much as the TNA knockouts are, I think that very few TNA knockouts are able to wrestle. Usually all of them are very skilled inside of the ring. Talia Madison, Angel Williams, Lacey Von Erich, Winter, they're all very equally talented. But the problem with the TNA knockouts are they're rushed, and that's another topic for another time. But I think that you have all this phenomenal talent in the women's division in WWE, and if you don't have anything for them in terms of a storyline or a program to work to promote the Divas division, the only thing that they do is they sit around the table, they pick 4 or 5 to release, and then WWE.com wishes them the best in their future endeavors. Tiffany Taryn Trinell is another perfect example of that. Former ECW general manager and in-ring competitor on SmackDown. I mean, she was great with Kelly Kelly. The pairing of the Blantarage was absolutely phenomenal. It's just that Tiffany never had the opportunities that Kelly Kelly was handed, and just was used as a way of putting Kelly Kelly over and getting Kelly Kelly to the top, who eventually went on to capture the Divas Championship and prove many naysayers wrong. Tiffany was just there to make Kelly Kelly look good and other divas to look good. I mean, Kelly Kelly was a phenomenal wrestler. She could have been a phenomenal wrestler without people like Eve and Tiffany to get her over, and even back as far as the days of Extreme Expose back in 2006. I think that, if Tiffany would have been given an equal opportunity, just as equal as Kelly was,